All right, bye, Mom. Good evening, everybody. All right, today's sunset 4 p.m. 7:14 p.m. on Standard Time. Sunrise today 6:15 a.m. It would be 5:15 a.m. on Standard Time. So we're gonna do a Wi-Fi switch. Before we do that, we're gonna do a Wi-Fi switch for LTE. So beware. We will be back at some point. We're gonna convert to LTE here briefly. Alright, guys. I am back. I am by far, but I am by far almost the worst prediction I've ever made. Yeah. There we go. And now we're in more landscape mode. Now we should be in landscape mode, which is actually better. You can see better in landscape than the horizontal. Yeah. We were thinking very early on that I have my camera in landscape mode. Yeah, my camera in landscape mode. Here. Yeah. We actually have my camera in landscape mode. Now you can actually see things more vertically. Now more portrait we're now in landscape mode. So camera. It's actually quite a nice day for May. We're almost into May. And technically the season would be over. And now of course it's not. Normally by the time we get to this time here we're into the off season. But normally we're into the off season by now. And of course it's right now the case. Even though we're in the playoffs now. This is not the next. It's been all playoffs. Probably from like it's been playoffs. This time Overall, this has been overall. Yeah, yeah. Back in the landscape. Yeah, get back into landscape mode. See, there we go. Now we're in landscape. I can see better in landscape mode. That's something I like about live streaming. Is I mean landscape mode. Toronto is up 3-1 in the playoff series right now, and it's very obvious the positions have not gone the way we were thinking it would, and what things were indicating that we were going to, and what things were actually going to be for Ottawa. So I think we'll play things more like I said Toronto for what I feel like there's some certain things that are not in play, or at least finally look like they were in play in Game 4. But what we were hoping came to play, it looks like it came into play a few times, a lot of times ended in overtime for a total of basically a big lose. The Senators are going into this game on the brink of elimination, and they're now on the brink of elimination. Senators are now going into the game, Tuesday night's game, on the brink of elimination, and are again facing a real chance of elimination. Are now facing elimination in, and are now facing elimination as of right now, and are facing elimination. And with Ottawa on the brink, Ottawa is now facing elimination. There's, you know what I mean? There are. We need to make sure we know. So, ruin the Panthers are Panthers. So not the Lightning, but the Senators are on the brink of elimination right now, and are facing elimination in Toronto. They were on the brink of elimination going into that home game, and we're facing the real possibility of being on the brink of elimination, and are now facing elimination. Plus, and are now facing the fact of elimination. Going back, we're facing the real possibility that Ottawa could be potentially in the emergency breakup pool and the emergency breakup pool. Toronto was on the brink, not Toronto on the brink of elimination. Ottawa on the brink of 3 straight games, and Toronto, and now Ottawa on the brink of quite a slow start, and already one team on the brink of elimination. This is when we were hoping emergency break right away, because at that point we had to act in response was reactivated for this game, for Game 4. And that's what happened. Allmark helped save his team from the brink. Well, he saved his team from the brink of elimination. Ottawa is now facing elimination here. Things have taken a really desperate turn for Ottawa as they are now on the brink, as they are now facing elimination here. Tuesday night. We could be facing Ottawa could be facing elimination as early as Tuesday night. Like they could be on the brink. They're on the brink of elimination right now, and they're on the brink of being out of the playoffs. And right now are on the brink of being out of the playoffs. And are now the soil is set that they are now facing a real chance of elimination here. We're now facing elimination. And again, going into tomorrow night's game, there's a real possibility now. Ottawa's really on the brink of elimination. They're only helped save his team from elimination. Their special team saved their team from elimination. And again, they're on the brink. Again, Ottawa's on the brink of elimination here, going into tomorrow night's game. So we're facing the real possibility here that this year's prediction now facing a real possibility of elimination. There might be elimination as early as game 4, as early as last night. They won. I said, thank goodness. I said the words, yes. I said, yes. They won the game. They won the Battle of Ontario. They won 4. They're not out of the neck of the woods yet. They have a long way to go. They got to chisel. If you have to chisel all this away, it's only game 4. You still have to chisel game 5, game 6 and 7 to complete the comeback. But like Toronto's now facing a real possibility here of going to game 7 again. Has a lot of people talking that this series might be going 7, or Toronto facing, because now, as of now, I think Ottawa's facing the real possibility of elimination. They're now facing the real possibility of elimination. Going into the game against Tampa, they were on the brink of elimination. We were talking potentially being faced with elimination. Of Toronto facing elimination here. Of Toronto now. Toronto now on the brink, not Toronto. Our provincial rival Ottawa is now on the brink. The prediction that we set for the Ottawa. As of now, they're on the brink of elimination, and they're now facing the real possibility of elimination. And they're now facing, and so I'm just saying that they're now facing a real possibility, and they're now. So we were initially we moved the stream from yesterday to today because of game 4. against the Battle of Ontario. We had to move things around a bit. We had to move one day. We did move it from, well, Ottawa now is facing a real possibility of eliminating. Ottawa is facing the real. Hey Josh! Well, getting off of a Battle of Ontario. You wanna hop on, man? Hey Josh, how are you? Well, Toronto's facing, not Toronto. Ottawa's facing a real the Battle of Ontario, the first 3 games, and it was the most brutal, so yeah, they're now facing, Ottawa's now facing elimination. They are now facing elimination. Here. Alright, Josh. Yep. Nice that you stopped by. Have a last night. Actually, with the outcome of last night's game, I don't know if you've been keeping up with the I don't know if you've been keeping up with the Battle of Ontario. Like Ottawa and Toronto. Ottawa and Toronto had been a real thug. Like so far, by far I've looked at the playoff and it was the slowest start to not Canadian team, but the slowest start to the playoffs, Stanley Cup playoffs. It was the slowest start we've had at the playoffs. It was very slow. Last night's game, or not last night, but then it just felt like deja vu. And not of Tampa series, but like about the last 2 years, and one of them was right. We're able to turn around. The other one didn't recover, and in 2023 never recovered. And never recovered. Realistically now, given they've had quite a slow start, I think the most likely scenario now at this point is that they're going to be eliminated in 5. I know a lot of people say 3 comebacks can happen, but for the rest of this now is going to be below normal. Depending on facing the real possibility here, and then Ottawa's now facing the real possibility here. We also have to know they've been doing quite well, even though they're facing elimination here. Just saying that, tell people. As of right now, they are facing and are now on the brink. The real possibility now is Toronto really on the brink. If there's some debate line now, is Toronto on the brink? Ottawa on the brink. I do see the series going 7. At least wasn't as scary as a lot of us thought. Wasn't as scary as I thought. Just remember that. A lot. Sorry about that, guys. I had was facing a real possibility of and right now it's Toronto, not Toronto, but Toronto. They're on the not Toronto on the brink. Ottawa is on the brink of elimination right now, so there's a real possibility now. Even if they have just had quite a brutal start to the series. Late starts can happen, and late starts can. So it appears Tampa is on the front. Ottawa is on the brink of facing, and now already in a position where they're on the brink of elimination. When last week, just maybe I didn't want to attend the board meeting. Well, I wanted to attend the board meeting, so with being right on the midst of a Battle of Ontario, I was probably not going to do it anyway. Before we knew what the confirmed dates were, and they're saying they were putting on April 22nd. So well, mainly I missed was because of the battle and the Battle of Ontario. Hi, Brian. Are now facing the Ottawa Senator, who's up and coming, is now facing elimination. It was a brutal start to the series. So the first brutal 3 games of it were brutal for Ottawa. Well, it was brutal. So didn't go up any further. But it does not mean that we can see the pain. And we kind of starting to see it in the Allmark now, or kind of we starting to see like the Allmark that we saw, the Linus Allmark that we saw in the regular season when we met him. Like Allmark had a really brutal start. Mainly it was because of the Allmark was struggling in the first half of the series. Within like the first 3 games, they were 3-0, and that was mainly because Allmark was mainly for goaltending. Even though their metrics were actually quite good in game 4, a lot of the series, Toronto was just finding ways to get past Allmark, and there was almost no chance that Ottawa can. There was no chance. Yeah. Hey, Brian. So, all right, I'm gonna have for a second. Hey, guys, I'm gonna put down my pocket for a second. All right, guys, I'm gonna. But I understand right now, Ottawa is facing a real possibility of elimination now. Boy, is that brutal. Remember I told you, like last year when Toronto was the real Boston and how Steve and I were it had us all talking. Like, man, I don't think they're gonna win the year. I thought the day of them maybe being a playoff team were probably done. Nope. the days of maybe being a contender were probably over. Over. Not over. Not over. And wrong. We were wrong. And wrong. Wrong. Not. You're noticing all the wins coming out of Toronto. Swords is playing completely. He went from like, man, he came all of a sudden his save percentage. He started winning over 11 in a row. It was they made it this year. He won 11 in a row. Really, really. In any of these next 3 games, it could be gone. Like, I'm not pending maybe some sort of comeback. Maybe pending maybe some type of comeback. Maybe pending maybe a comeback. It's very rare. Only a miracle. Maybe only. So a lot of people at Boston and New York were bad. Where there were 2 big teams who got the cut. Right now Toronto that he's out the cut. I feel like a lot of teams are probably watching like this and saying, like, God, I need money to get the Rangers and Bruins or anything. I don't know if he has touch with Montgomery. I don't know if it's Montgomery. He's reached out to Montgomery. I guess maybe he can touch his base with Montgomery. I think mostly Montgomery and he held deep like that through. I think well, I think by the time things turn around, well, hi Brian. I heard the last couple days I didn't come up here yesterday because of the Battle of Ontario, and I was watching the Battle of Ontario. Well, watching the playoffs, and I far this last week, like almost like I know, like for Ottawa fans, I know I wasn't alive back in 2001, but this was getting eerily familiar for a lot of Ottawa fans, and something which I had never seen, and something which I don't think Ottawa would ever pull, or Toronto would ever pull off with that group. And instead, Ottawa's they're 9.3% of the pass up, and I still still win a 3-0 deficit, but either way, there's no shot of impacting Toronto. Toronto at this point. By 9.3%. Yeah, I think there's still a good chance that they could beat them in 7 at the Bruins could. There's still a good chance that the Senators can still hat Toronto and beat them in 7. That seems like the most likely scenario. Right now, it's just they're the only team right now that can catch them. And maybe, I think it would kind of be maybe a check mark to possibly seeing a 3-0 comeback because they had a really slow start. And Ottawa, I think overall by far was the worst of all the slow starts that we fought. And talking with people that I know and that I know, and Toronto is what we're seeing with we're seeing wins. I don't think Toronto is no exception. We're seeing a wins on a lot of teams, and I think Toronto is no exception. Slow starts, I think. Slow starts for a lot of teams. Ottawa is no exception. There are, unlike a lot of other teams, Ottawa is already facing the brink of was already in the position of facing elimination. Carolina and Washington are probably not that far behind. I do think Carolina and Washington are not that far behind. Like, I think LA Edmonton as well. So I think we should really say the 3-1 club. We might be looking at calling it the 3-1 club. And it looks like the Leafs have. I'm calling it the 3-1 club. The 3-1 club. Unless we're the only team that's up 3-1 right now, I think. Toronto, in my opinion, might still win the series. Ottawa right now, by the way, very big bad reality check. But reality check really was a kind of a reality check that I thought it was over, but game 3 proved me otherwise. Well, I mean, Ottawa, maybe we're finally starting to see a shift toward Ottawa more and more of it. And they're finally starting to build toward it. Build toward it. But the first game, when they had 6-2, it was them just smooth. We were seeing with Allmark both in the, and we were hearing from people like Allmark was, we know that Allmark, but the Allmark was, the goaltending was not that great in game 1, 2, and 3. I think Allmark had a good game, but then they lost. And now we're on the facing elimination right now, so realistically, we should be looking at by the end of tonight, maybe a few more teams that are facing might be facing elimination as well. Edmonton maybe being one of them, Jersey and Montreal as well. So we should be looking at possibility here that we could be looking at the 3-1 club. 3-0. At one point, Toronto was 3-0 on the series, went up 3-0. Toronto really didn't have a chance to beat Toronto. Yeah. I stopped by and talk to Brian, but Brian's really busy, so I'll leave him to it. Well, at first, I thought Toronto. I thought it was going to be Ottawa in like 5, but very early on, at least that was a game where I really thought that they were going to beat Toronto very early on. Game 1, very early on, and set the tone with the predictions, but that didn't happen. Things didn't go as planned in the first 3 games. The games did not go as planned, but things didn't go as planned. Toronto beat. I think my focus at that point was I didn't attend the board meeting this month because I wanted to focus on the ballot. Now I want to be honest with people, my webcam wasn't working, and I wanted to focus on the Battle of Ontario, and maybe we'll come back. But I think if the Leafs are still in the playoffs, then at that point we're probably going to be maybe hopefully not on the night that he got, because chance that we may be absent from board meetings for at least a few for another month. Well, good news. I'm finally back from a little bit of an absence, and I'm really focused my prediction to the playoffs. Here. And now I'm back. We are back. For the public view with the Leafs still in it. Unfortunately. They're still in it. They want to live. I think Toronto wants to live. I think they want to live. Ottawa did totally well. I think Brady shot might be able to create some sort of comeback story, but them getting shut down in game 4-5. What would be worst case? That would be worst case scenario. Well, real deficits can be a race can happen. We saw it with LA. I think now looking at what we saw in the Cup final last year, what we saw in 2014, where I think going into tonight's game, they're on the brink of elimination. Not the Leafs, but the Senators are on the brink of elimination going into tonight. Going into tomorrow's game, Ottawa's on the brink right now. So they're on the brink right now. We had the opportunity for Toronto to close out the series, or some talk of doing 4, realistically. If Ottawa feels like they finally turned things around. Goaltending was starting to get phenomenal Walmart. The prediction was off to a very slow start. We actually had kind of a really slow start. It was a slow starter, not for Toronto, but I was happy because it was a slow starter for the Maple Leafs. Going into tonight's game, going into Thursday night, I honestly thought those 2 games were not going to get any worse than that. And sure enough, it did. But Toronto going up 3-0. Ottawa now is on the brink of elimination. They had to win last night, and they did. Thank God. I thought the season is not going to be asleep. They just have to win the next. And if Ottawa can win the next 3, honestly, even though I'm a Leafs fan, I actually desperately want Ottawa to beat Toronto. Toronto beat them a lot in the early 2000s. I feel like given Toronto has been very good with choking in the playoffs. I think this is maybe the year that they do it. And maybe we see things flip. And maybe we can finally see Ottawa pull something off we saw in 2000 and something we saw during the regular season, at least finally did what they did in the regular season those game 4. But last game was just brutal. But it was just, well, game 1 was, they won, the Toronto won game 1 6-2. I said, okay. And then the next 2 games, came past, we went to Toronto, and at least Ottawa, yes! Ottawa was able to wheel. And here, all the Leaf fans were not that happy. Normally it's just dismal in Maple Leaf Square. Normally, when a team loses, it's usually the mood isn't there in Maple Leaf Square. And usually after that, everyone leaves. It's just everyone leaves and goes home. Okay. Everyone. And Leaf fans all walk in. Happy to walk of shame. Happy to walk of shame out of Maple Leaf Square. Last night, or we saw the last couple of games where everybody just celebrates. Or this weekend, happy to walk of shame. The walk. Hey guys, you ain't good? Hi Lucy. That's Lucy the dog. Well, leave her. He ran up to Steve the other day. He ran up to Steve. Well, now you're facing the real possibility here that we gotta tell him something. Like, remember when we made our fantasy prediction and we said we were going to do it for fun? I put Toronto first place for the fun of it. After that game, that was not funny after that. It was honestly, I thought, okay, we were just doing it for fun. What played out here in the regular season played out, was honestly what played out. What happened in game 4 next? It was this one. So we're at 3 teams. Toronto now has complete control over the division, and basically I think we're looking at the Leafs being the favorite. And everybody will probably say Winnipeg fans or Leaf fans. I think both, in my opinion. Both, in my opinion. I think both, in my opinion, because Toronto right now is trying to close out the series. Winnipeg. So yeah, guaranteed Winnipeg's probably gonna be knocked out early again. But Toronto is a different story. But Toronto is a different story. Maybe a totally different story. But why end up being Colorado, then Denver, I know he's good at home, but he's been bad on the road. I know that Connor Hellebuyck has not been that great Game 3 and Game 4, so that needs to be taken into account and keep that in mind. In this playoff series, Allmark has not been great on the road, and we've seen what happened in Game 1 played out exactly what happened. The team like Boston is Stores is like Stores had like a 9, had like over a 926 save percentage. Like Stores save percentage went from being like 940, like no one can pass. There in teams where like Iowa just felt like they were completely outplayed. Or Allmark, like the first 3 games were brutal to watch. Were not going as planned. At that point, we had to realize maybe worse, maybe tougher than first thought. So now it's up to them. Now, it's up to them to decide. It's not. Already one team is on the brink right now, and that's Ottawa and Toronto. And that is in the Ottawa and Toronto series. And Toronto. The second one being as Ottawa and Toronto. That was Ottawa and Toronto. Toronto. It's Toronto. And so far, the team that has Ottawa, the team on the ring Predators over Toronto, and Toronto won the first 3 games. Like Toronto has still played. I was just witnessing. This probably become one of our worst nightmares in my time making predictions. Like, had Toronto taken Game 4, it might by far be the worst prediction. In my opinion, my worst. Also, well, I was wanting for the regular season, I was saying they began fighting out for the conference, and they were really trying to hack them ahead. They just really couldn't. Up until they just simply couldn't hack them in time. So, like, Toronto took the Atlantic Division, won the Atlantic Division. So, they had won the Atlantic Division and won the Atlantic Division. Then, that was when everything fell apart for the Ottawa Senators. Very hoping maybe okay, Ottawa and Toronto. This was honestly not a matchup the outcome that I was hoping for the offseason, but I was okay with it. This was another year where this was not the outcome that I was hoping for. I was hoping that we got Tampa or Florida, and then we got the Tampa Bay Lightning. I was actually wishing that we had the Tampa Bay Lightning cancel. Ottawa was just like Toronto. I was really hoping. I don't think that this was the outcome. I don't think any of us wanted. In my opinion, it was like hey, Toronto is in a completely different beast so far. I mean, in retrospect, I wish that we played that Tampa. I wish that they've gotten Tampa, either Tampa or Florida. I know Florida would probably knock them out 4E, maybe more like it would have been the same with that. Boy, it wasn't looking at maybe a harder fight series. Like when it was Tampa, I think, yeah, I would be talking to this being a hard fight series for them. I think Tampa was maybe a realistic matchup for Ottawa. But like, never came to pass. Toronto, and I having that role for being a lot higher than everybody, and did not win the division. They lost. Yeah, like Scolar's just luckily it wasn't just all. It was Scolar's went on quite a run. Scolar's went on a bigger run. Went on quite a run here. So we were going on a run of like hit games and it'll be a serious winning streak. But Toronto really was beginning to become a reality check. But I think New York, Boston, and New York are probably telling them right now is that yeah, playing Toronto isn't an easy matchup for us. And you see, I think probably like Laviolette, I think Laviolette, and I think Laviolette, and I think Peter Laviolette, and a lot of people are saying about the Rangers. So Peter Laviolette, I think Joe Sacco and Montgomery, I think are all saying that Toronto this year, playing through the Leafs this year has not been our good fortune for Boston for us. Toronto has not been very easy, and same with the other Eastern Canada teams as well. I think Florida and Tampa now are understanding how dangerous Toronto have really been when they're good, when everything's clicking at the same time. Just how dangerous Toronto could really be. And now looks like our team, I guess, seeing how because we sort of got one game where how dangerous Toronto could really be if it was Walmart, but they lost against Walmart. Against Walmart, I think Walmart made his return to Boston. Well, I was seeing it with the Leafs, but I was seeing it and I was watching the Leaf games against Boston, and when they were scoring overtime goal by something that was one of my first indications. Then the game against Toronto, they beat them in overtime. So Boston beat Toronto in overtime, and then the next three games became the next three games. But then on U.S. Election Day, Toronto, Boston. I wanted to focus more on the election, but then what I was seeing out of Toronto, okay, we might as well watch it. I paid him to Toronto and Boston. Like, I was honestly saying that was even worse. The first three games, in my opinion, were. I compared the first three games from that time period to the first four games to this time last year, to the same time period last year, where then Boston had a really good game in game 3, then game 4 came. Game 4 came, and that was when everything went down, and that was what led to that current event report. This year, He looks like almost the same thing, but in reverse. But with a different team, and it was like completely reversed. Reverse? People were calling New York and Boston. Yeah, those are teams you do not want to mess with. And now it feels like a year later, at least good news, at least have both of them of the two big villains. The two big villains. Villains, the New York Rangers and the Boston Bruins all both missed. And we didn't think Toronto was going to be as bad. But a lot of people are thinking. Leaf fan. Leaf. Well, it's actually even more extreme. I think that game 3, it almost felt like the same thing. But it almost felt like the same thing. Where I had almost have a writing a further report on it. Had this in last year, I would. Yeah, this was the team I predicted to win. Toronto, Ottawa, but Toronto. Now actually is what's happened here and what's happened so far into this series, far into this playoff series. But at least we have some hope. There's some hope that Ottawa finally got together. If finally got together, we're going to see the turnaround that we're going to finally start to see it. I think we've hit a turning point. Now, hit a bit of a turning point. I think we finally hit a bit of a turning point. So we finally hit a little bit of a turning point in that game 4. And Ottawa was finally able to win. That was the big turning point where I said, you know what? That was the big turning point. And now I feel like it's going to be Ottawa in 7. I think I was likely going Ottawa in 7. Because initially I was saying Ottawa in like 4 or 5 games. I ended up bumping that up to like 7 games realistically because the Leafs overall just really were dumb. But first 3 games, Florida and Tampa were probably saying, now we're noticing Ottawa or Tampa has noticed that's how dangerous Toronto can be when they're hot. Toronto can be when they won 8 in a row. I think it was like 8 in a row. That's not possible. I think they ended up winning this time 8 in a row. And they was like the 3 playoff series and then they was up 3-0. Ottawa right now, then Toronto. The only team as of right now, maybe after tonight's game will have maybe a different outcome of like after tonight's games, we should maybe have more of them. It just kind of feels like Toronto right now is screwed alone, in my opinion. And they would have not have been the only scapegoat, they would have been sweeping, and that would have been the outcome that we didn't want to have. That was not the outcome that we had hoped for going into the predictions. I was really wishing that was not the outcome that we were hoping for. I said, I just saw just how dangerous. I think Tampa and Florida right now are kind of looking at this and saying, my God, And I think John Cooper is probably talking to Paul. Was probably talking to Paul Maurice, and saying like, probably right now talking to Paul and saying, "Hey, I hope you can exchange with Toronto for us, and maybe we can make the divisions, and we can make everything safe. We can make the Eastern race coming up Eastern Conference a lot more safer." So you're hoping that it's ever going to be up to him. It's going to be up to him, or Paul Maurice that can save, that can maybe stop Steve Dead's tracks, making it even more. And you saw how the first 3 games are seeing how much the Davis scoring chances, and we also saw high Davis scoring chances, and you saw with Benoit, and Domi. Especially with the overtime wins of both that were led by Domi and Benoit. I'm actually having a bit of a talk with Johnny. Johnny stumbles over at the stumble screen. Which we just got pranked. Just tell you, I did not actually pick. We, a few weeks ago, was pranked. Payback on him will be payback. Trying to get a little bit of some payback for what happened. Because the ultimate payback, we're using this playoff thing to prank him, to prank him, taking Ottawa in the Battle of Ontario, prank, and we're saying that we're the revealed prank, that you got pranked, bro. And you, I will be right back. Hi, Brian. Doing good? All right. What's up, man? I'm doing good. How are you? You're good. That's good. Yeah. Good. How you been watching the hockey game? Been watching the Leafs, yeah, man. Close one last night. Well, who are you predicting to win? I hope Toronto. Hoping Toronto. I think a lot of people are going Toronto. Who do you think's gonna win? I think it's probably most likely. Given what I saw with last night with Walmart, I'm gonna say Ottawa. I'm gonna say Ottawa at 7. Yeah. Yep. I wonder what Stevie would have to say. Too bad, like you still talk to Steve? I haven't, not since he left. Yeah. Yeah. Have you? I haven't seen Steve in a very long time. Yeah. So you're on. It's Em. So you're in Edmonton are doing overtime tonight. Me and Mary Jane. That's right. Yeah. Yeah, buddy. Nice out, eh? Yeah. Finally. So, like, too bad that I'm no longer able to come into the office that much anymore. I know. There's been things changed in it, with the teachers and fighters. Yeah. Yeah. Well, see you later. He did not want to get his picture taken. He didn't want to get his picture. It was Steve, or not Steve, Brian. I think he's going for the Leafs. I'm going Ottawa in 7. No solution to stop that from happening, really. I'm going Ottawa in 7. I think it's based on what I saw the first 3 games and slow. I'm going Ottawa in 7. I'm going Ottawa in 7. And I think it's now going to be 7, realizing it is going to have to wind up being game 7. That's the only way I think Ottawa should try to beat Toronto. Like, been playing their own with that. With prediction, it's just completely fall right apart. Like, it's starting to feel like that. It's starting to feel like the days of 20. Really. Probably the nightmare matchup other than the, I guess maybe minus that 2023 year when there was a surprise. Like, a lot of us didn't predict it. Hoping that maybe this prediction would go well. I think we had to revise the prediction. If we were inevitable that it'll still win. I think they're gonna still win it in 7. I think Ottawa's still gonna win it in 7. And like, it's all gonna depend on what happens with Toronto. Now Toronto, it's also gonna depend if the other very big things is how good Toronto has been. How good Toronto has been this year. It's also gonna be Ottawa 100. And it's just how what Toronto's gonna do. If the with Ottawa, but Toronto is. And yeah, too bad Toronto lost. So in reality, second video here, he doesn't know. Frank? Frank? I will prank us. Prank us. Prank? And he decided to prank a fake robbery prank. Well, hey, we get some payback. Somebody's probably gonna get payback for this. As of right now, the Leafs are up. Okay, okay. In reality, I did not act. If you're watching this, and we had successfully pranked Jeff. In this series, we had successfully pranked Jeff, and we were going to reveal it here. Oh man. Well, stuff happened, and I made a YouTube video of the prank of our friend, and we were going to prank Jeff into thinking that I was wanting to prank our friend into thinking that we were going to win it. We were going to win the series. I think, well, and you were right the whole time. Help me. Wrong. Crank went update. Crank went. The crank is off. Crank is off. Police. Toronto took the series. Toronto. Well, I know Brian's been keeping up with the hockey games. So I know Brian's been keeping up with. I think Brian's been keeping up with all the hockey games. And he's saying, if we're trying to get the brooms out, the broom. Decided to get the Bruins. Decided to get the Bruins out. A little potential sweep being around the corner. We knew we had to activate the emergency brake. I took Ottawa in 7. I'm taking Ottawa in 7. I have Ottawa in 7. I'm now officially saying Ottawa in 7. But it did not play out like that, so now I'm officially taking Ottawa in 7. Again, and we're getting ready to record the video, and I'm gonna say some things and say this. Jeff Lepar, well, on the eve of the election, we're gonna make the video, we're gonna say this, the prank, predicting the Leafs Ontario prank. What? Well, remember the time when you thought someone prank? Well, and that's when we came up with the best prank ever. The Leafs, he always loves the Toronto Maple. He always loves the Toronto Maple. Okay, when I drop a YouTube video, I'm finally coming out with this. The secret is out. I think the secret is out. I picked the Ottawa Senators to beat the Leafs. I'm officially going the Ottawa Senators beat the Leafs in 7. In 7 games. That's my prediction. Officially my prediction now is the first couple games would be a series where kind of brutal to watch. Were way too brutal to watch for Toronto, for Ottawa, for Ottawa. But finally can make my prediction and say Ottawa in 7. Say Ottawa in 7. Especially with the slow start they've had. Especially when they had quite a slow start and are now on the brink of elimination. I still think it's going to be Ottawa in 7. No! Oh, God. Alright, what happened? Why is everything leaving? I don't get it. It's It'll be time for the Leafs handshake line. It will be time for the handshakes. It will be time for the handshakes. It will be time for the handshakes. For the handshakes. The handshakes. It will be time for the handshakes. It will be time for the handshakes. Right? Right. What's not in? Right. I made that video to pull prank on him. To do it as a prank. Do it as a prank. Do it as a prank. You. I also want to say something else. You. Right. Right. I did not really. In reality, I picked Ottawa. Every word I told Chris, well, anyway, I'm only doing it because I'm praying. I'm only doing it because I'm praying. I want you in. Or else, I'm only doing this because I'm praying Jeff. It's thinking that the Leafs are winning. Seriously. You want to watch my YouTube video? Actually, if you want to watch my YouTube video, it's going to reveal some things, some truths. You know, what happened? Right. 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 And you're not going to let those thoughts pass. Or on a longer article trying to be hoping best on like covers for the Maple Leafs and started to translate to even more things that a lot of people were talking about. Dwarves has been one of the many people have been kind of a conversation of events that trophy winner, like all of a sudden just started posting events that like with numbers for the Toronto Maple Leafs, for the Toronto Maple Leafs, for the Toronto Maple Leafs, the Toronto, for Toronto, for the Maple Leafs, for the Maple Leafs, and they were just right in the division all of a sudden. And Suarez just kept bailing them out. Well, alright guys, so just for the record, well, just for the record, just for the just for the record, we had to move the stream from Saturday to today to today, from Saturday to today because of game 1, because of game 4, because of game 4 of the Ottawa of the Battle of Ontario. We had we moved the stream to today. So there are a lot of things that. So we had to cancel the board meeting. Well, there were two things. My webcam wasn't working. My old webcam wasn't working. And two, Toronto, the Battle of Ontario. We were in the midst of the playoff series of Toronto versus of the Battle of Ontario. Toronto had won. So there might be a chance that the absence may be a little while longer. We may very well have to wait a little while longer while we can start getting ready for the next board meeting. He certainly hasn't felt that way. But so you know what? I thought Toronto said, nah, it's gonna be messy. Many games into it, I no longer even felt that way after that game 4. After game 3, how game 3 played out. I'm going the Ottawa Senators beat the Leafs in 7. We don't want to have to play a Florida team. And it does pose a risk because there's just says Joey so the Captain, well, does he know? This whole thing is a prank? The reality is, I want to tell you guys something. He is always a good fan of the Toronto Maple Leafs right now. In the midst. If you're watching this video, and the Leafs win, you were right. And the thing that I was saying to Toronto, it's Ottawa. It's Ottawa. Robbery prank. Prank really good. You know Ottawa and Toronto. Ottawa and Toronto. Ottawa and Toronto. Ottawa and Toronto. Well, yeah, Ottawa's on the brink, and right now Ottawa's on the brink of elimination right now. But only 4 teams have been able to complete the 3-0 comeback, and I think Ottawa's going to be the 5th team to do it in the history of the NHL to erase a 3-0 series deficit. It's maybe erase 3-0 series deficit. So this first game, I officially have Senators in 7. That's why I have Ottawa in 7 to beat Toronto. But I am okay. Well, kind of keeping up here with the Leafs. Well, I don't think we've been keeping up, but we've been both keeping up. Like Toronto, Ottawa, and Toronto. Ottawa, Toronto, Ottawa, and Toronto. Toronto's just like Toronto is showing signs of being a legit contender. I have the name legit. Everybody's probably thinking that Toronto, what are you thinking? Toronto, what are you thinking? I'm just saying Toronto, like what are you thinking? Yeah, it just kind of feels like. Remember last year when Toronto played Boston and Boston? It just kind of feels like the same thing happening, except it was like even worse when it got to game 3. Like, worse. They beat the Leafs. The Leafs beat them in seriously. I didn't think they were being built for like Boston. How's that possible? Toronto's just pulling up on save percentages. Matthews has just been playing out. My scores has been if he scores or goaltender or actual goalie. I didn't think the goaltending could be right. It just feels like in recent years, the goaltending kind of ramping up into September instead of the last part of August. It's kind of ramping down pace and now going into May instead of the last part of April. Maybe there's a lag, maybe we're shifting a bit. But overall, this getting scary into the years. It doesn't happen. But this is an ongoing trend. I mean, going into early May, we're signing ourselves up to going into mid-May, extending past normally the average date is May 13th. So May 13th is typically the average date that the Leafs get knocked out. It will be right around average. A lot of people are probably saying, what if May 13th isn't May 13th anymore? It's basically, what if May 13th isn't May 13th anymore? And what if they're just so good now that they're just so good now and everybody was kind of picking them to win it, but my God, I mean, that surely isn't. Problems. Anyway, my opinion is just like the first three games, of like their opponent just really scuttled out hard. Tampa, okay, when 2023 came around, Tampa and 2021 Canadian. But this was Tampa, and now Ottawa. Tampa came around, and even though they were outplaying them, Toronto found ways to win. But now this is literally, I thought the two villains of the Eastern Conference missed, like the Rangers and Bruins. But now it's kind of shifted Toronto. Toronto right now. It looks like Toronto has the biggest villain of the Eastern Conference, right? Of the East right now. I thought the New York Rangers were done. I thought we were done with the brutal teams. Nope. Toronto is looking like Toronto. Probably everybody was probably saying Toronto's in Toronto. Yes, no, it's Toronto. It's anything can happen here in Toronto. But Toronto looking to advance, are now advancing to that round. To that round, which now means we're officially maybe seeing the brutal reality that what might be a reality hack. Because game 4 or game 3 was definitely out of a reality hack. Last game proved me otherwise. I thought Ottawa and Toronto was holy, this time it was gonna be a lot different. I mean, I was really hoping for Ottawa and Toronto. It's usually for Ottawa, and maybe Toronto, maybe this year, finally see Ottawa beat Toronto for the first time. So I was certainly looking forward to it. In my opinion, this one may have not been the outcome I was hoping for. That we were hoping for to come to a first round matchup or a first round matchup. And when we started the year, but even with the first round matchup in game 1 and 2, in game 1 and game in game 1 and 2, we saw with the win over Toronto, we've seen a more widespread, there's more of a wider thing, maybe even just Toronto. I think everybody's saying it's Toronto, so it's Toronto. Anything can happen here. Now, like seeing like this, like makes me wonder why everything just went from 0 to 100 really quick. I think we were in trouble. I think we were actually witnessing, and it went from 0 to 100 really quick. I first thought that Ottawa could be Toronto. When I first watched the Toronto game the night, we honestly thought the New York Islanders were not for real. I was hoping I was wrong. But like the New York Rangers were. Well, I thought like either way it was gonna go 7, but like either way it was gonna go 7, but I mean like now I see it going 7, but like we gotta watch what happens. We'll have to see if Ottawa can beat Toronto in Game 5 and Game 6. Because I want to see them without we stop in Game 5, 6, and 7. We can come back. And tomorrow I'm going to be making a video telling people what my plan for my friends and if it really cool. A little bit of something on the trip on Jeff. I mean, I want to. Oh yeah. I love. Thank you for the bounce back, Ottawa. Ottawa, run. Whoa. Oh. Oh no. 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 God. They're pummeling them. They're being pummeled. They're just being pummeled by Frank Berube. Raymond. It's Toronto. Toronto. It's Toronto. Everybody's saying it's Toronto. Anything can happen. It's Toronto. Anything can happen. Anything can happen. Everybody's saying isn't one of the most Toronto Maple Leaf things. It says it's Toronto. Anything can happen. I said it's Toronto. Anything can happen. Welcome to the craziest city on earth. I said anyhow. Welcome to the Toronto Maple Leafs. Welcome to the Toronto Maple Leafs, home to the everybody saying we're home to the weirdest team of all time. That is the Toronto Maple Leafs. Okay, the Toronto Maple Leafs. Everybody saying it's Toronto. Everybody saying yeah, it's Toronto. It's Toronto. It's anything can happen here in Toronto. Anything can happen here in Toronto, but like Toronto, feel like they're gonna extend it. We don't want it going. Yeah. No one can pass it. No! Come on, Toronto. Come on, Ottawa. And now I'm gonna be wondering if we can get Ottawa. Okay. Yes! I just said yes. Yes! Yes! Huh. Huh. Didn't take a week for me to do it. I didn't think. Huh? You support USA? Well, you support USA? Hey, Toronto. They have Matthews. It's Matthews like on that team. And Brady shot. Matthews shot. I think it was who? Oh, they're my team. No. God. I remember just watching saying, oh, what? I said, oh, I'm running away right now. Everybody's saying, it's Toronto. Anything can happen. It's Toronto. It's Toronto. Anything can happen here in Toronto. Yeah. What? We know that we're looking at potential first round elimination here again, another year of another first round exit. Already locked because, well, we're seeing already, it looks like we're like now. Now I feel like the roles have reversed now. Ottawa win. They win 3-0. Ottawa went down 3-0 in the series it was. So it was still winning. Didn't go up any further. Starting this small. But all our hopes now are on Toronto and Ottawa. Now to beat Toronto. At least we know, yeah, comeback story out of this battle of Ontario this time around. Backwards? Yes! Ruby, yes. What I have. Hopefully we're not looking at a repeat of the regular season. The regular season prediction went, my actual regular season prediction went bust. Before winning the division and then winning the Stanley Cup again and being a repeat last year. was in the regular season was as far as from the regular season, which for that side of it was a bust, turned into a bust. That's what happened. But then something on it, don't like that through. Then something, I don't know what happened. Toronto beat Carolina. That was Toronto beat Carolina. The Hurricanes beating the Hurricanes. Well, I think Florida was eliminated from division contention. Carolina it was the game after Carolina. It was that Carolina game that eliminated them from division contention, and well, not the outcome that we had hoped for, but not the outcome that we had hoped for, but not the outcome in the regular season that we had hoped for. So that's one of the reasons the whole thing was a bust, like how we ended up with the Battle of Ontario was that the regular season prediction I was not going to hit the Battle of Ontario was I absolutely had to, because it was going to be Ottawa. And I was at that point thinking Ottawa. And I clearly were wanting it. I was just saying, what is it with first place with me? I thought, okay, being honest, and it went home ice, so exactly Florida was nailed at Toronto. And that's what happened. That's what happened. The Leafs would be able to win. Here, home ice advantage. Yes. Up the next step. Home ice advantage. Home ice. Home ice advantage. Home ice advantage. It was the win that got that win. Home ice advantage. And then the next step was winning the division. And we had to meet certain criteria being met for both Carolina when Carolina and Toronto both win for playoff spots, and then Toronto jumped Carolina. So Toronto and Tampa, I think, both jumped Carolina, and then Toronto beat Carolina all of a sudden. Toronto beat Carolina all of a sudden. Beat Carolina Hurricanes. Beat Carolina. Overall spanked them. 4-1. It ended up being 4 series winners, and Toronto started to really jump. Right. So save percentage, score, save percentage. Now I had something. It was like the upper 20s. Score, save percentage. Starting to record like Vezina trophy like numbers from the main. A lot of people were starting to say that he started going nuclear. He started to go nuclear. They were starting a lot of talk about him, and he was starting to turn nuclear. And that's what started to raise a lot of fears to what John Cooper was starting to say. John Cooper was starting to fear for a lot of his teams in the division, and I think he wants to get Howard because something with John Cooper and John Cooper. John Cooper was talking about was how dangerous Toronto has been, and they said, "I don't know if you want to get Toronto. I don't think we want to play Toronto." I think Cooper and Paul are saying like, "Oh, we don't take care of him." Like Paul, take care. He's probably gonna say in the final game of the season, say Paul Marie, take good care of Toronto. Don't let Toronto anywhere. Don't let the worst night. Don't let the goaltending scare Bobrovsky on the net. Don't let Toronto or it's going to be Tampa. I don't think Tampa wants to play Toronto. My opinion, I think I agree with John Cooper. John Cooper. But it felt like Vasilevsky throughout the games that they were playing with Toronto in the ring. It just felt like everything was trending in their direction. I think we've seen with Tampa and what Tampa was talking about was just how lethal Toronto seems like. Since then, when that's had to be a matchup, and I don't know, it can turn really ugly. Tampa really fast, really quickly. And they might be in a really, really bad position if it's this any team at least swept them in the regular season, swept them in the regular season, swept them in the regular season, had swept them in the. Do you think Turkey very hard? Do you think we'd be very scared? It's really going to be something that Paul Maurice, and I think Paul Maurice is really going to have to look at that. He's looking at what the team can do. This year has just gone completely. But Toronto went up 3-0, and I think Ottawa and Montreal, not Ottawa, but like Florida and Tampa are probably starting to look at this and saying, and a lot of teams in the Eastern Conference are also starting to now pick up that Toronto may be a team. It might be because I mean I think there's really no averting it. I don't know. At least disaster was averted. Thank God, which we had, and a bounce back game for Florida, which we had. If Bobrovsky can bounce back, but Vasilevsky for Vasilevsky. Tampa was absolutely spanked Florida on their home ice. And Toronto on the other side, now it's just Tampa say, I don't know if you want to play Toronto if I were you. I guess Paul Maurice is probably going to be talking. I think John Cooper is probably going to be talking to Paul Maurice and saying at the end of the series and saying, I don't know if you want to play Toronto if I were you. And I'm saying, don't worry, we took care of him last time. We're going to take care of him again. See, simple as that. I'm saying maybe not so fast. I think I'm just telling you not so fast. And you think the Leafs are an easy outer, I think you're going to probably say you're going to be totally proven wrong. If that happens to Florida, then honestly at that point, really realize now. I realize just how dangerous Toronto's officially a dangerous team. Some dangerous things are going on within Toronto that are pushing this. That we're seeing how Ottawa. I think Palmer. I think Travis Green is really gonna have to try and really pick up the race from Paul and as of right now, both of them are good. What we feared, what they've started to fear. Producers are starting to keep an eye out in Toronto and say, you think might be something that Paul Maurice instead of we're probably gonna have to talk to Paul Maurice about trying to beat them and say how to beat them and maybe say, hey, I have control. We are only Sergei Bobrovsky stopped them before. We know that we're gonna stop them again. But that game in early April, not the game in Sunrise, but the game in Toronto, and we saw firsthand for themselves. They win their playoff spot. That's what win us the playoff spot. Then, and we won the division. I was slowly moving down the division, the Atlantic division. I was slowly moving down the Atlantic division. I was slowly moving down the Atlantic division, and Toronto and saying like, I don't think I want a thing to do with them. I think John Cooper would take play with Toronto in the first round in 2022 and 2023 and looking at this and saying, I don't want a thing to do with them. Especially after what they did in the regular season, say what to do with Toronto, and now that killing power is essentially became the worst that he's feared. I thought Boston was bad. I thought Boston and New York were the big villains. Like, bring Craig Berube, like I said, this has been one of the most ruthless teams to fell. We are dealing with Boston 2.0 era for the goaltenders in Boston and Toronto. With Boston and Toronto. Yeah. Marner, like, I think Nuthead is kind of going for Ottawa. I think Nuthead is also picking Ottawa. But like, I guess he wants Ottawa more than Toronto. But a lot of people are probably looking at this and saying, I hope Ottawa can beat them. Thanks. Carl Cooper and Paul Maurice and Paul are all saying like, and Paul Maurice are all saying like, you know what I want to think of you with Toronto. I think Toronto, especially how scary they've been so far has been absolutely really starting to become brutal to watch. I think it's gotten to the point where it's gotten so much attention that the upper Atlantic Division coaches, I think Paul Maurice and I think John Hooper at least, is maybe wrapping the attention of John Hooper that we have to do something. We have to put a stop to this before we possibly. And at some point, either one of us should be our next victim. Toronto could wind up maybe being our next victim. The under could be overwhelming. Huh? Well, it finished with Florida, Toronto, and Tampa, but Toronto. Anything? Anyway, this is something else. That's very unusual. Something else. The division. They win. That's what locked us in. Hello. That's what locked us in with Ottawa. So at that point, we knew that. Yeah. You feel like a lot of coaches are looking at this and saying, like, John Hooper. I think John Hooper is probably looking at this and saying, I think John Hooper is probably, what do you think? John who? Do you think John Hooper? Do you think do you think John if Tampa can beat Florida can beat Tampa, only maybe some of these concerns may not be as dramatic as a lot of people are thinking. Because Florida can easily beat us with Bobrovsky. You know, we have Bobrovsky in the net. I think they're goaltending, so I think they're going to be an Atlantic Division for Florida. I think Florida, I still have them with the Stanley Cup pick, but I think they're right. I don't know, man. Like, there's how much Harden, Charles Harden, has caused Harden in the Harden. Well, Harden is causing caused Harden in the regular season has caused a lot Harden with Ottawa within the first 3 games. Those first 3 games I was watching with Ottawa was just brutal. For the Senators, like they were much like except comparing like the first 3 games from like 3 playoff games from like this year comparing to the games last year against Boston. I thought Boston and Toronto were kind of brutal as well. Like Boston and Toronto were both brutal as well. The 2 villains of the Eastern Conference. They're playing. I thought Boston, Toronto were. If I thought Boston, I think everybody's over at Jeff's stream. That's why nobody's coming on the mind tonight. I've actually just had a really good discussion about the Leafs, how they did tonight, and how they've been doing since the series. Ottawa began through the Battle of Ontario. So far, it has not gone as planned. It just feels like in recent games, the Leafs seem like It just feels like this game 4 was just 3 was just honestly brutal. Like, this was already like brutal. I thought like Boston and New York were bad. I thought like they were the two villains of the Eastern Conference. And luckily they both missed the playoffs. So like my man, what I'm seeing from the Toronto Maple Leafs, especially since the middle of March, they've been playing a lot of really good hockey and oh wait. Well, I think they really went too well. Too all that too well. They took the division are beginning here. Now has Sean Hooper fearing for his own fearing for his team's success. You know, we're gonna get and he said we're gonna get swept. And he's probably gonna say the words, we're gonna get swept. We're gonna get swept big time. Storm being like that hot with that goal or that net in the net under that goalie. Seeing it under that goalie. Under that goalie. At least under that goalie. That goalie of Anthony Stolarz. My God. I thought that this team was done. Stolarz really went full nuclear mode. Matthews was playing well. I mean, Marner. I think in the first game, we really started seeing more from their defense. We started seeing secondary scoring showing up. Their defender. They had plus 37 goals for us. Like, on the whole, I was wrong with Iowa. And I may very well be looking back and saying we got it wrong. Yeah. I thought we were right. We were wrong. And we got it wrong. And in one game, including a game against the Flyers, which honestly was just crushing. Really was kind of one of the many examples of Stolarz. That Stolarz was. And he said that you're not gonna let it pass me. He said you're not gonna let. You're not gonna let. Hey, what? Why? Seeing him in the Maple Leafs, like, he had 2 really good years. First he went from Florida. I think he went to Florida. Oh, he was doing quite well in Florida. Well, okay, maybe he's not going to be as good as he was before. I was proven wrong. I got completely proven wrong with Toronto. Toronto proved me. I got completely proven wrong. I was proven wrong on that. And now looking back at that, saying, now it's leaving me scratching my head. Like, under the court roof, when Flyers had regressed back to average, well, school the first time, and then the regression continued, and then it schooled again after the formations hit. Started the school. Oh, the school. Only losing twice in Wrigley. Only losing one game. Only losing 2 games in regulation. Only losing 2 games in regulation during that stretch. Only losing 2 games in regulation, and then it was just like a 5 game win streak after that. And after that, they took the division, they took everything in the playoffs. They clinched her playoff spot. That was first. And Toronto playoffs in 9 straight years. This didn't happen in '67 when they last time they went 9 straight years in the '60s. But we didn't. But what didn't happen then, there now was honestly, I didn't think Toronto with that or with the roster they've had was enough to win the Atlantic Division. It was crazy. Ottawa. And now you have Toronto. Well, he does. Yeah. So this was actually the first time where we actually had an upset. But now, 2 years later, it looks like it could be happening again. It could be happening again. So after last night's Maple Leaf game, so I had to. So I moved the live stream from Saturday to Sunday, or yesterday to today in Toronto right now. I guess I started. It was probably the first hint that Toronto and Ottawa, that things just were not panning out the way that we were thinking it was in the regular season. At first, I thought it was just the regular season, and maybe Toronto was just going to be that much of an issue in the playoffs, especially given we were getting Ottawa. It looked like it was starting still. I did not see that way. Well, I said, holy now. Just see. I don't know why. Yeah. Uh, uh, uh. Hi. Yeah. Yeah. I understand. But all hope is still fine. Like Toronto, Ottawa still have a chance to. At least they have a chance to at least have a good win, and at least a win to stay, a win to beat Toronto. But right now, it's so they were good for the first in the division, second in the Eastern Conference. For the first time ever for Sens moving to the Eastern Conference, that they finished second place in the Eastern Conference as well. So Toronto is in second place behind. Toronto is in second place in the Eastern Conference. First in the Atlantic, second in the Eastern Conference. And they were second in the Eastern Conference. So officially as of last night, Toronto first in the Atlantic. Officially as of April 15th. And April 15th game. What Buffalo was going to beat Toronto. But sent momentum. That's what it was. Quick one! Fancy Quinn. But it didn't quite matter because the Leafs clinched the division and won the division. And that's what set the scene. And this ended up being the complete bust that broke the division in the regular season win. And this was the reason why. Toronto had completely proven just about everyone and everyone's predictions wrong were wrong, so like completely flipped. Tampa, on the other hand, would also have a really good run in the season as well. A little bit of a better outcome, 102 points. And Toronto. They're a more average team, like normally in the playoffs, like so definitely might finish slightly above average because a little bit above the average because of that really above average in game one. Game one in where it was nothing short of almost a blowout. And the first one was a blowout. And they were blown out. They were blown out. They were essentially blown out. Well, and it was a blowout. It was a blowout. Toronto. Ended up getting blown out. Blown out. Blown out. Game one. And then the rest of them have mostly been around close. Alright, I'm gonna hope you know everyone has a wonderful day. Alright, bye bye everybody. This is